Hi, my name's Darren. My business is Darren Does That, and we're based in Edmonton. And among our services, one of the things we do is we install a lot of permanent Christmas lights. And the product that we've been installing for the past year and a half is the Watts lighting system. It is a professional install only smart lighting system, app connected, gives you terrific control over the look of your house. The lights are installed inside of an aluminum track at the eaves and the gables of the house. And with a few flicks of your thumb on a full featured app, you can change the look of your house into all sorts of different holiday or architectural lighting styles. Comes with a 5-year warranty. I really like this product. It took me a while to find it. I installed some sort of home-brewed, scratch-built lighting systems, as well as a single diode lighting system that was developed here in Alberta. But it wasn't until I found the Watts product I found something that I really felt I could put the weight of my business behind in the long term. However, I got several calls last year, and this year I'm getting a lot of phone calls asking if I will install the Govee lights. Customers are finding them at Costco or ordering them direct online, Amazon, but then finding there's areas on their house they find very difficult to reach and are looking for professional help to put them up there. And I'm getting lots of interest. So I wanted to take a closer look at them and see what they were, see how they compare to the Watts lights. You can get them in several different lengths, and there are a few different styles. This is Govee Pro Permanent Lights. These are Govee Elite. Not totally clear on what the difference are, but there are some less expensive versions as well. These are marketed direct to consumer. So whereas you cannot buy and install Watts lights without being certified by Watts Lights as an installer, these you can go to the store right now and buy, and there's instructions that will tell you how to put them up. And conceivably, if you can access all the spots on your roof, that you stand to save a good chunk of change. Let's open them up and take a closer look, see how they compare to this permanent product and see where the value lies. Okay, we got some product out. Let's take a look at what we got here. So I have set all these up to similar color. Within the two types of Govee lights, they are definitely set to the exact same color because the Watts lights has a different color interface. There's some variation. For whatever reason, my camera is picking the Watts lights up as slightly purple, where to my eyes they're very, very much exactly the same color as the Pro Govees. Yet this purplishness coming from the Elite Govees, while not quite this significant, there is a noticeable difference despite them being on the exact same color settings. So these lights are all tuned to maximum output so that we can see exactly what they are. So these are 3 LED. This is another example of the aluminum track that they'd be installed in. And so they're all up here wireless. These are the Govee Elites, and they have probably a pack of LEDs right there in the middle. And these all have an adhesive backing, so easy to install. They just kind of stick on, but unless you're going to go and do something custom, there's not going to be any aluminum. So these wires are going to show when the install is finished. And then here are the Govee Pros. Clearly, to my eyes, much brighter than the Elites. We'll get some measurement on here sooner to find out like what actually is. I can see at least 3 points of light inside this as well. Same thing, adhesive backing. And one thing about this and this, these lights are meant to be installed on an 18-inch spacing. And the Watts lights, we do them on a 9-inch spacing. So again, we'll see how they compare for brightness when I get the actual light meter. But you're going to have more lights with the Watts system. Now, when I opened these up, I saw something that, as a pro installer looking at a consumer product, I don't like very much. So this was inside the Elites. This is a Class 2 power supply. That Class 2 rating is very important when we're talking about permanent lighting products. This doesn't apply if they're Christmas lights that are going up and coming down again, but permanent lighting products, unless they meet these Class 2 requirements in the electrical code, they technically need a permit to be installed, and certainly should be installed by an electrician. So this Elite product meets that. And yet we get this piece of advice here: installation work and electrical wiring must be done by qualified persons in accordance with all applicable codes and standards, including fire rated construction. Qualified, big important word there. It's not a word to be tossed around lightly. If, God forbid, if there's a problem and there's a fire or there's major damage, this qualified thing right here, the insurance companies are going to be interrogating whether or not the person who installed these was qualified. And a lot of homeowners, I suspect, are not going to meet what an insurance company's definition of qualified is. Something to keep in mind. But we are Class 2 power supply, and that's good. And with a Class 2 system, as long as the product itself doesn't have to be modified, read that as like cut and spliced, then you're pretty reasonably covered to follow the manufacturer's instructions and install it. So this is the Elite system. You can get up to 150 feet of lights. It is by far the dimmest of the three we're looking at, and also the color fidelity is a little bit less. The Pro system. Okay, here's one of the things that I find very strange. Not intended for illumination, only used for creating ambiance. They are outdoor lights. I've never heard of lights that aren't used for illumination, but there are some subtleties in the Canadian Electrical Code that let this product get away a little bit with some looser restrictions because it has that specific disclaimer in it. Still, I don't like it. I think that's a bit disingenuous. They're clearly lights, and they're bright lights too. Unlike the Elite product, where we have clearly this is a Class 2 power supply, the Pro system has no such text. And I'm going to tell you why. The Canadian Electrical Code is very clear about what constitutes a Class 2 product that can be installed as a permanent lighting fixture without having a permit pulled. And a Class 2 ultra-low voltage product, so 60 volts or under, must have a maximum power output capacity at the power supply of 100 volts times amps, or volts times amps is watts, so 100 watts. And this device is 36 volts at 3 amps for 108 watts, meaning it does not qualify as a Class 2 device. And that means that, in my understanding of the Canadian Electrical Code, this cannot be installed without a permit. Now, it's got an ETL certification, and it conforms to CSA standards 22.2, number 250.13, and I went into my library subscription and checked that out. And those are standards for the construction of LEDs themselves, but you need additional certification or additional qualification under the Canadian Electrical Code to become a Class 2 device. I mean, you can build LEDs that conform to this standard, but they still require professional installation. These are not a DIY product. The other thing about these that make them very, very much not something that can be reasonably installed as a Class 2 device is these right here. These promise the ability to cut the lights to fit a complicated roof line.
For example, you see this house that they know so nicely draw out. The last thing you want to do is run lights here and here, and then have to run lights all the way back up here to do this. All those extra lights running across the roof look terrible. And with a professional product like the Watts lighting system, we don't have to go cutting and splicing because we've got connectors in between every single one of our lights. So without modifying this Class 2 product, we can make it fit a roof line perfectly. But connectors cost money. Actually, the connectors in the Watts system, like to the manufacturer, I've heard them say that those cost more than the lights themselves. And so these are coming in 16-foot strands with just connectors on the end. And if you want to shorten something, you actually have to cut it, and they give you these kind of nifty quick junction boxes to sort of make your customizations. It's all kind of cool, but it is definitely not a Class 2 device that under the Canadian Electrical Code could be installed by a homeowner with no permit. So I am going to use a lux meter to check the brightness of these lights. Light brightness is often measured in lumens. A lumen measurement means you actually have to capture all the light that is being emitted, whereas lux is a measurement of how much brightness is in a given spot. You could measure the lux of a specific light, like down at a desk versus down at the floor or in a corner. You get all different readings, even though the lumens that light broadcasts are all technically the same. So a lux is like a real world measurement of brightness. And the way that I'm going to do it is I've got this little pick and pluck foam here. And so I can isolate each individual light. I'm going to place the foam over the light and then take my lux meter and stick it down on there as well. Would this stand up to an engineering lab? No, but we should get a decent isolation so we're actually measuring light per light.
Okay, I've got results from our brightness test. I'm actually very surprised at what I saw. So here, these are the measurements that I got, and then some random drawings that I've done of goodness knows what. So with the Elite lights, first measurement in terms of lux, 480, then 395, 343, 340. The Watts lights, first measurement again high, 1749, then 1362, 1363, 1246, and then the Govee Pros are the brightest consistently. Again, the first measurement was quite a lot higher, 1886, then 1470, 1441, and 1400. Now, the reason that the first numbers are all bright is because I was using the lux meter and my little cutout foam to get some level of isolation. And on this side, it was very easy to be consistent. But on this side, I was kind of shoving the light inside. And what I noticed when I was checking the light meter is that there was a substantial difference in brightness just based on how far I put these in. So for the next 3 rounds, the rule I made was that the body of the light must not compress into the foam. And that way I felt like I was able to get a reasonably fair distance comparison between all 3. So the conclusions that I draw from this is that, yes, the Elites looked substantially less bright, and they are. I was surprised when I first turned on the lights that the Watts lights actually looked as bright as they did compared to the Govee Pros, because what Watts publishes about the lumen output per light is 25 lumens per light, and the Govees publish that they're over 50 lumens per light, so they should be twice as bright. And I definitely didn't feel like they were twice as bright when I looked at them. And then those numbers bear this out. I mean, in terms of the human eye's ability to perceive, the difference between 1400 lux and 1325 lux is extremely small, really negligible. And then there are twice as many of the Watts lights because they're on 9-inch spacing. So my conclusion is that the Watts light system is a heck of a lot brighter than the Elite system especially, but even the Govee Pros. There's just twice as many points of light, and the light brightness is fairly comparable.
Let's take a look at the Watts application. One thing that you will not get with Govee, that Watts has as a huge benefit, is cloud connectivity. That means that instead of your phone needing to be at home on your Wi-Fi to control your lights, you can control them as long as you've got an internet connection somewhere, overseas if you like. But I find the most useful application is if you're out one night and you're wanting to appreciate your lights from the end of your driveway. Sometimes your Wi-Fi doesn't reach that far, so you want to play around with them and change them, and you're running back up to the house to get on your Wi-Fi. With cloud connectivity, that's not a thing. Now, let's take a look at the app. Here we go. So there are 4 main tabs along the bottom that will bring us to our different features. Presets is a great place to start. There's over 800 presets, all categorized, including ones that you'll begin to build for yourself in a folder of user presets as well. Halloween's kind of the next one coming up. So there's 61 different Halloween presets built in here already, and you can see a preview down the left side of what colors are going to be in that pattern. And you can see on the right side in the blue text what sort of animation that pattern is. So a chase pattern and a fireworks pattern are different. A solid pattern is going to be no animation at all. You'll see the colors there repeated throughout the installation. So lots in presets, lots of architectural looks, so we can get those neutral cool whites, warm whites, and we can warm those whites up even further. We can also start to space things out to start to get more of a pot light effect. So we go 1 on and 5 off, or 2 on and 2 off, to start to build patterns that look good, create light and shadow on the house. Whatever you create or whatever you select here, you go over to the Patterns tab and you'll see exactly how it's built. So at the very top, if we found colors that inspire us, but maybe we don't want a solid pattern, we want them to do something else, we can press here and go through our whole Rolodex of the various types of patterns that are available. Blending from black and white is probably about the least interesting thing somebody could do, so we can very quickly pick those swatches and turn them to something else, and then within that pattern we can speed it up and really throw a rave, or haul everything down for more relaxing on the beach. And then we always have a master brightness control as well. A few other ways to pick colors, RGB sliders, quick picks. You can even, if you've got colors that you want to save, you can save them up here, and then you've always got them ready to go. And even hex codes. If you've got any sort of graphic design experience, you'll know that you can get precise brand colors, logo colors that way. You can increase or decrease the number of lights that are in a pattern. So right now, let's go back to solid so we can see what this is doing. These 4 colors are repeating over the install. Maybe we only want a 3-color pattern, or just 2 colors alternating. And we can change how many actual swatches are in there. Hey, go Oilers. You can go up to 12. If you go down to 1, then the whole install is going to be whatever color you pick. You make something nice, you save it as a preset, you give it a name, and then over on the presets page at the bottom you'll see a user preset folder show up just above spin the wheel. What else can I show you? Single bulb control. This is a feature that the Govee system does not have. It is, for some houses, perhaps a really important feature, but a lot of customers don't use this. This is where you can actually give instructions to each individual light on your installation. So I've got light number 7. You can see that it's teal. I could change it to light number 6 being teal, and you'll see that one lights up. I can turn it green if I want. Maybe I'll want light 7 in there as well. So I'm going to add a light to position 7, and we can give that its own color. And so you can exercise as much control over the look of the install as you want. I think the strongest use case for this is when you want to build a pot light effect, maybe 2 lights on and then some dark space and another 2 lights on. If you've got a house that's got a lot of peaks on it, the patterns that are built in where you go 2 on, 5 off, 2 on, 5 off, you'll be very lucky to get those lights to lay out symmetrically across all your peaks. And so you want to sit outside with a nice chair and a enjoyable beverage, because it's going to take a few minutes, but with this you can add in lights where you want, get instant feedback from the installation of exactly where those lights are going to go, and build a pattern with the lights placed exactly where they would be if you were having somebody come in and just put pot lights in. And once you've done all that work, you'll definitely want to save that as a preset. You can give that a name, and then that shows up on your presets tab as well. Into the scheduler, very comprehensive schedule. You can set things to go on sunrise or sunset. You can choose exactly what pattern from all the presets, including eventually your own user presets, the ones you've saved. So you can decide not only when the lights are coming on, but exactly what is coming on. You can choose different days of the week, so you can set up different schedules for different days of the week. And you can set up prompts based on time as well. Maybe you don't want to run them until sunrise. You can have them turn off at 10:30. My lights at home, I have them set so that they run a little later on the weekends than on school nights, and that has that flexibility. Those are sort of the 4 main ways of interacting. I like this app because it's intuitive, pretty easy to figure out what you want, and you can get a sense of what the patterns are just from the color previews and descriptions. Okay, here is my admittedly much less sexy Govee Pro Light display. It is the case that these lights are installed with the wires showing. You can order them in a few different colors, so if you've got a black house or a white house or a brown house, they can be somewhat nondescript. But yeah, these wires are messier than I hope anybody will ever install them on their own home. But you can see how big the spacing difference is. Boom, versus these. So I needed a bigger board, and I wasn't gonna do all the aluminum work since these don't get installed into aluminum. Okay. Oh, you see a nice picture of me daughter there. Let's get into the app. This is the app. We've got both sets of lights set up here. You can give them custom names, and I've got to tell you that I am not as familiar with this app. Obviously, I've been installing the Watts for a year and a half, so I know it inside and out. The Govee app seems to do more because there's some smart home products. There's certainly other styles of lights, but there's a bunch of other kind of smart home products in the Govee brand. Let's take a look at the controls for the lights themselves. Off and on, da, 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 da. It works, woohoo. And here we go. So when we first land on this page, I'm seeing brightness slider, great. We can turn them down, crank them up, and we have color picking. So we can change everything to one specific color, and we can warm those colors. Well, those are specifically whites. So yellows, greens, blues, and then along the whites, we can cool them or warm them or find somewhere in between. Of course, we've got a big color picker. Oh, we have feelings. I'm not sure how I feel about the feelings. I guess happy is always green. That's sort of a limited way to live, don't you think? But yeah, I guess if you want to produce certain feelings, they have their recommendations for what colors mean what. And it looks like they've got palettes of colors. doesn't look like I can, I'm not creating patterns of these. They just are sets where I can pick specific colors. All right, so colors, nifty. I have seen that you can do segments here as well. So you can set them up and then control different sections separately. I am unclear how gradients works, so I can't take you through exactly how it does, I'm afraid. Scenes has, this is sort of like the presets in the Watts system, but they've got them categorized through some more esoteric setups. So we have festivals. I guess that would be equivalent to holidays, and we can do a Christmas tree. This is actually an animation, so we have some actions there. We can do just a Christmas. Okay, this is an animation as well. And if we have the ability to edit the speed of the animation, we've got 3 options. So we have low speed. It's not no speed, but it's low speed. I'm not seeing a way to just freeze that animation and get one look. Life. We can live our life colorful. So there's sort of like descriptive of feelings in this rather than descriptions of what the pattern itself is. You can get a sense of what kind of colors are in it from the way that the picture is drawn. It's kind of an elegant art style, but I don't necessarily know what I'm getting into when I pick it. Demon Power looks to me like it was going to be red and orange, but it appears to be a creepy yellow flashing. Emotions. All right. Collaborations. Okay, so there's some Dune stuff here. Universe. Planet-themed patterns. Now, a lot of these are animations, and I think that primarily when I'm seeing my customers use these, they like the option for animations, but having solids is what they're going to use most of the time. Pick some colors that they like and put them into a pattern, and away they go. So I'm not super keen on seeing that all of these things have animations, and there's no easy way to change them. But let's keep going here. Illumination. Okay, we have color, temperature, scenes. All right, so I want a warm white for snuggling up with my cat at the end of the day. I go to the reading one. I need a bright white for working on things in the shop. Boom, there it is. Get it. Music. All right, so this is a feature that Watts does not currently have. It is in development, but no promises on when it will be. So if you are looking for a system with music reactivity, where you can have the lights bounce and dance and do along with what you're doing, this is the way to do it. And probably I can get them just responding to my own voice. What do you think of that? Isn't that nice? So, wait, it's already responding. Why is it asking me? No, don't do it. Cancel. Forget it. It's already working. Don't get my permissions from me. It seems to be working no matter what anyways, but I did have options to choose how it responds to my voice. So this system does have music reactivity. If you love that, then maybe this one puts it head and shoulders above. Share space. Summarizes lighting effect videos shared by others. Oh, there is some social sharing here. You can share patterns in the Watts application, but this thing where there are like video previews of all that's out there and you can pick them up, that's not something that the Watts system has. You're going to more or less, if you know somebody and you have a pattern that you'd like to share it with them, you can do that. Okay. Unwelcome me from share space. There we go. DIY. Automatically change the lighting effects according to DIY. So here is where you can apply a DIY system. This is also part of the sharing system. It sounded to me like DIY was going to be create from scratch, but what I'm actually seeing is that I can pick something that somebody else did. Finger sketch. I don't know. I don't know how this works. My notion is that this is something like the patterns builder, that we can have a background color and then we can start adding in new colors to create patterns. We've got clockwise patterns, counterclockwise, gradients, breath patterns. We can maybe crank down the speed and get something more static. Maybe if we want to create a specific pattern, we can just turn the speed all the way down and then we get a static color. Okay. So yeah, it looks like you can build a static pattern that way. Yeah, can be done. Maybe it's just my being used to one or the other, but I like the swatch setup better. AI. This promises to... You can describe what you want. Watts doesn't have this. Let's try it. Can you please turn on a architectural pot lighting pattern with a warm white light and then 3 lights that are dark and then another warm white in a repeating pattern? Okay.
You got it, friend. I will play warm lighting effects for you immediately. Like it? Tap to save the DIY.
Oh, okay. So it created something for me. Not quite what I want. But yeah, it seems to have some ability to play things that work. Let's try. Can you make a static pattern with alternating red and green lights? Go, baby, go. Can you make it happen?
I recommend a festive, alternating red and green lighting pattern that will fill your space with holiday cheer and merriment.
Oh, yes.
Would you like me to apply the recommended
I
scene for you?
sure would. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, the recommended solution has been generated. Like it?
Whoa.
Tap
No.
to save the DIY.
I don't like it. I want it to stop giving me epilepsy. All right, well, let's see if at least now that I've got the colors I'm looking for, let's go into finger sketch. Oh. All right. Maybe I could have saved it to DIY the way that they offered. And then I could have edited it. Save DIY test. Great spelling. Great spelling. Okay. Okay, so I've applied it. Now, if I want to edit it, oh, I don't think I can actually edit the pattern in here. So, yeah, I'm a little confuzzled on how to build the patterns exactly the way that I do in the Watts application. That doesn't mean that it can't do it, but it does mean that a guy who's been working with that system can't figure it out quickly. There's more. So timers, snapshot, workshop, effects lab, batch operation, group is invalid. So maybe there's some really great stuff in here, but I'm struggling a little bit to manage it. I've got lots of ability to pick single colors for the whole installation, but I'm not sure how to pick just alternating colors. Doesn't mean I can't do it.
Okay, so after really digging into what's going on with the Govee lights, I personally would not install. I wouldn't seriously consider anymore installing the Pro lights as a permanent product. And that's primarily because I'm running a business and I've got to keep an eye on my liabilities, and installing a permanent product that is not a Class 2 device under the Canadian Electrical Code is big dangerous risk. Could really come back to bite me. Despite these being well reviewed and there not being a big history of fires and whatnot, it's still not a risk that I'm willing to undertake. The Elite lights, these I'm more likely to consider installing because they are Class 2 devices. And so in a situation where you've got, say, a bungalow with a fairly straightforward roof line, you could take these, stick them up yourself as a homeowner and run it pretty simply, and that could work. But the Elites are so much less bright than either the Pros or the Watts lighting system that I'm used to installing. So I do think there's a lot more value in the Watts system than going with the Elites. It's a good DIY option, but it lacks flexibility if you want to do transitions between peaks and have any sort of complicated runs, or if you need more than 150 feet, because these you buy a second controller and power supply, and you just have a whole other system if you want to go above 150 feet. I'm definitely sticking with the Watts lights. I think that this is a professional product. Our ability to finish a home with it looking wireless is so much better. They put out more light on a linear foot basis because there's more of the lights. And I think the app is awesome. I think it's intuitive. It has everything that the vast majority of people are looking for without it being stuffed behind a whole bunch of menus or difficult to figure out. So yeah, still really like my Watts, gonna keep doing it. Elites, they're pretty cool as a DIY system in the right situation. And the Pros, I am very nervous about recommending, but they are a really nice bright light if you can tolerate the risk. It's different if it's a temporary light. If you want to pick up some of these and string them, you're having a wedding or a backyard party or put them around a tree or something, I think they're great. And you can actually do some splicing in a temporary situation like that. But for a permanent install, if you're cutting these, you need a permit. So that's what I've got to say about the lights. I hope that you found it informative. If it steered you towards one of these projects or the other, one of these products or the other, because they meet your individual needs, then I've done my job. And if you are interested in the Watts lights or more traditional Christmas lights, non-smart lights, you're in the Edmonton kind of area, this is what we do. You can check us out online at darrendoesthat.com. You can call into our office. Avery or I are always picking up the phone. We'd love to talk about your project. Thanks.